Over the years, we've received a number of different Ninjago spinner sets, starting all the way back with this little guy in 2011 and catching up to us this year with the 2025 Dragon Spinjitzu spinners. Some of these have offered incredible value for both play and money, while others have disappointed and presented us with shells of what we had seen before. But which Ninjago spinner is the worst one? Today, that's what we're going to be figuring out. In January of 2011, we got what would be the first of many $10 Ninjago spinner sets. The concept behind these first ones was simple. You'd line up the two arrows in the middle of the spinner, place your minifigure, and then let it rip. Whichever minifigure fell off their respective spinner first had lost. The construction of these little guys here still remains the most basic. It's a single circular piece with open studs for attachments. When I was a kid, I remember absolutely loving how simple and small these were because it made them easy to carry around. Whenever anyone at school wanted to battle, I had my spinner at the ready. These were very popular in my class when I was back in grade school, and I truly think a large part of Ninjago's early success was due to these spinners here. And as such, there is no possible way these can be the worst, solely because of their importance and impact on the franchise alone. So, we're gonna have to keep looking. On to the next. It would take LEGO 4 years to give us a proper follow-up to these original spinners here. They knew that whatever they chose next had to be unique and separate itself from what they had already done, and I believe they achieved that with the Air Jitsu spinners. These included 3 new molded pieces that all clicked together and would fit into a handle. With the handle in hand, you would use a ripcord to get this thing started, and instead of just spinning, these things actually took flight. I can't tell you how much fun I had with these when I was younger. I remember taking them outside and trying to see how far I could get them into the air. The unfortunate side effect of this flight ability, however, meant that the spinner piece itself was incredibly light and fragile and would quickly become scratched and damaged if flown around too much outside. I wish LEGO had found a way to make these particular spinners more durable and resistant to scratching, but I understand that taking your toys outside is going to lead to wear and tear. The inherent problem here is that these can't really be flown around inside. Overall though, I do really like the look and functionality of these, and the fact that they were the first spinners to include exclusive minifigures made them all the more valuable. These ones are winners in my eyes, and certainly not deserving of the title of worst spinner. Let's move on. It would take another 3 years before we saw LEGO return to the concept of spinners, and this time, LEGO stuck with it for every single Ninjago wave for a few years in a row. Starting in January of 2018, we got the Sons of Garmadon Spinjitzu Masters. Much like the Air Jitsu Flyers, these were made of 3 separate pieces and featured an exclusive minifigure. However, these were nowhere near as well received. Instead of introducing a new concept, these spun very similarly to the ones from 2011, except this time they were far bulkier and didn't leave any room for customizability. They stuck with the idea of a ripcord, but the problem here was a toy that could spin on the ground after being ripped was something very, very similar to the Beyblade brand at the time. The minifigures here were criticized as well, with all of them featuring a lazy reprint for their legs and no sort of exclusive face or hood print. It's safe to say that these sold poorly, but are they a contender for the worst spinner on this list? Possibly, but we've got many more to cover before we make that decision. In summer of 2018, LEGO yet again stuck with the idea of the large 3-piece molded spinner, opting this time to recreate the flying motion of the Air Jitsu spinners while also adding on an additional $5 tax. The Dragon Flyers retailed for a whopping $15 US, the most any of these spinners have ever cost to this day. It featured a similarly built stand to their predecessor, and a large plastic wing piece was clipped to the back so they could experience a prolonged flight. Instead of going up like the Air Jitsu spinners, these ones used the wing piece to soar horizontally. Once again, an exclusive minifigure was included, and while it wasn't canon to the show, the overall design was received much better than their Spinjitzu counterparts. I think as far as price is concerned, these are certainly the winner for worst in that category. But the flying function is quite fun to me and really puts a different enough spin on the Air Jitsu version to justify its existence. Just 6 months later, we received the third variant of the Spinjitzu spinners. These were small, minifigure-sized pieces that were dual molded with the base color for each ninja and paired with their translucent counterpart. Much like the originals, you just use your hands to spin these, What was so special about these spinners in particular was the fact that they were able to combine playability with show-like accuracy. All of the previous spinners before had always prioritized play, meaning that none of them looked anything close to what the actual concept of spinjitzu looked like in the show. These here were the first and only spinners to properly bridge that gap. They all came with a singular minifigure, except this time none were unfortunately exclusive. I think from a buyer's perspective though, these are certainly a fantastic and affordable option to get all the new suits at a very cheap price. If this were a competition to find the best Ninjago spinner, I honestly think these would win. But this is a search for the worst spinner, and these here just wasted our time. For the fourth wave in a row, LEGO gifted us with more gimmick spinner sets. This would mark the first, and sadly not last, time that we would get the entire team represented. This time around, Cole and Nia were sadly left out. These spinners here for the other 4 ninja follow the same concept as the previous wave, this time representing Forbidden Spinjitzu from the show. Once again, they're beautifully dual molded and have a splash of glitter injected into some of them in the plastic. However, whether it was intentional or not, LEGO made a critical error when developing these particular variants. They sit about a stud shorter than their predecessors, meaning that the elemental tornado is now shorter than the actual minifigure included. So when you want your figures to transform into a burst of spinjitzu, they're going to noticeably shrink, which is a huge downside in my opinion. Another change made to these was the fact that LEGO included a new way to get them spinning. This new spiraled piece on the bottom hooks into this brick, and then you push down on the lever to get them to spin. This is a super fun addition in my opinion. Smashing down on this and seeing it go flying across your surface is a great time. These also feature what I believe to be some of the best spinner minifigures ever. Every single piece on the figure was exclusive, and these were the first to introduce alternate expressions for the new designs. So, some really high highs and really low lows here, and those balance out to make these spinners land right about in the middle for me. LEGO would continue the idea of $10 gimmick sets for the next wave with the arcade pods. However, these are not spinners, so they will not be included in this list. In the summer of 2020, we got 3 sets to coincide with the Master of the Mountain set wave. These were the Spinjitzu bursts. As is the case with most of these entries, the minifigure included definitely carried. These ones were once again powered up versions of the ninja, this time with their elemental energy looping around them in large bursts. Very cool stuff. The spinners themselves were very strange to me. They included 4 of these dual molded pieces that would be held together by a rubber band. Continuing the smash and spin concept of the last wave, these differed in the way they spun. When launched, the molded panel pieces would fold open to reveal the minifigure inside. It's not a flawless feature and it doesn't work every single time, but it's certainly a unique one and I appreciate it for that. For $10, these sets were on the lower end of amount of stuff you'd receive for your money, but they're redeemed by their uniqueness and fantastic minifigure inclusions. I'm not totally sure if these deserve to be included in this list, but I wanted to quickly throw in the spinners from the Master of the Mountain game. There were 4 of this exact spinner spread across different sets in the wave, and the idea was that you would use it in accordance with the sets to play a sort of board game. These don't have the capacity to be qualified as the worst, as they don't have the actual chance to properly represent themselves in their own set. But if I was including them, they would probably grace the lower portion of the list. The sharp and curved look looks quite rough in my opinion, and the black and white color scheme isn't doing the shaping any favors. Let's continue our search for the worst with the core spinners released in 2023. These feel like LEGO's attempt at bridging the gap between the idea of the accuracy of the legacy Spinjitzu spinners and the ripcord functionality of the Airjitzu and Spinjitzu Master ones. Unfortunately, I don't quite think it works. The Spinjitzu tornado piece looks incredibly goofy to me, with the top of the spinner folding out into almost a dome-looking shape. It really takes away from what's supposed to be a sleek and elegant-looking tornado of elemental power. The pod in the middle for the minifigure is distractingly large, almost trumping the size of the actual spinner itself. These look a lot like a top you would spin back in the 1920s, and that's not really a compliment in my eyes. They did come with an exclusive minifigure, which certainly helps their case here. I loved seeing the reuse of the Forbidden Spinjitzu mask piece, and the bright base colors for the ninja is something we haven't really seen since. These guys here are the Dragon Power Spinners. There are 3 different variants of these once again, one for Kai, Nia, and Lloyd, and each of them feature a different type of functionality. If you press down on Kai's, it's supposed to launch itself into the air. Nia slides forward in a sort of assault strike mode when you press down on the bars, and then Lloyd's is the least interesting of the three with just the expected spinning functionality. These are one of the smallest and least interesting entries on this list, and to add insult to injury, LEGO raised the price on these by $1 for some reason, making them $11 US, which almost felt a little bit insulting to me. The minifigure included with each is okay to me personally. I quite like the new torso design, but the lack of a new face and leg print makes it feel very incomplete. I don't think these are the worst spinners we've gotten because of their unique play features, and the molded dragon cores are really nice pieces, but they certainly come close to the bottom in my eyes. The final entry on this list are the Dragon Spinjitzu spinners, not to be confused with the Dragon Master spinners or the Dragon Power spinners. God, the naming on these just gets more and more convoluted as the years go. It's really funny. These feature a push and spin concept very similar to what we saw with the Forbidden Spinjitzu and Spinjitzu Burst variants, only these are far bulkier, featuring a large single plastic piece to house the minifigure, and then two separate dragon tails to clip onto the outside. These different dragon tail pieces can be swapped between spinners to allow for some range of customizability, and even though it's not the most sizable of transformations, it's still something to appreciate. None of these, unfortunately, feature exclusive minifigures. In fact, the only exclusive minifigure piece in all three of these sets is Kai's hood mold. It's dual molded in gold and bright red, instead of the crimson and bright red we see in the rest of the wave. The functionality of these is certainly fun, it feels very smooth, but it's something we've seen a million times over from this sub-theme. These aren't atrociously out of line for what we've seen from these spinners over the years, but its distinct similarities to what we've seen in the past probably means that they won't leave any lasting impressions. And just like that, we've reached the end of this list, which means it's time to finally pick a winner for the title of Worst Ninjago Spinner. And that award is going to have to go to the Legacy Spinners. These ones are just everything a spinner shouldn't be. Show accurate, fun to play with, affordable. Just kidding. Did I get you there? The real worst spinner has to be the core variants. I just think their appearance alone earns them this spot. They look so incredibly off to me, and I can't imagine ever wanting to display them on a shelf. So, do you agree with me, or do you think I'm being too harsh on the core spinners? Let me know your take down in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see more commentary videos like this, let me know as well down in the comments below. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next one.